In today's video, I'm going to take a look at James Harden and how he has fared with teammates such as Dwight Howard, Chris Paul, and most recently, Russell Westbrook. I want to discuss the specifics of how he has been able to run three big superstars out of Houston and get into the details of what went down.
This is a Heat Rocks production.
What's up, everybody? Your boy Pat back again with another edition of Second Take, where I talk tech and I speak sports. Today's topic of the day is James Harden is the problem. Not a problem, but the problem. Now, before we get into it, make sure you like and subscribe, as it helps out the channel. Now, James Harden is an absolute superstar in today's NBA. And I want to start off with the Houston Rockets of how they acquired James Harden. So the year was 2012, and Harden was a sixth man on OKC. He got traded because of not being able to come to a agreed upon contract with OKC, and he got shipped out to Houston. When the trade was done, it had essentially put Houston back on the map in the NBA as far as becoming competitors for an NBA championship literally overnight. So let's fast forward to 2013-2014 season when the Houston Rockets landed Dwight Howard in free agency. Dwight was already in the prime of his career, having already been an 8-time All-Star, an 8-time Defensive Team Selection, and a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. In Dwight Howard's 3 years of time spent in Houston, he averaged approximately 18 points and 12 rebounds. Now, while the Rockets were winning 50-plus games with these two superstars, there were rumblings between the two. While most people, including Harden and Howard, stated there was no dislike toward each other, the disagreements in the form of Howard wanting more touches on the box, while Harden preferred an isolation offense. During their time together in Houston, it had gotten so bad that behind closed doors, people were saying the two were trying to get the Rockets front office to trade the other guy. Here's a direct quote from Fran Blindberry of NBA.com. He says, "For 3 seasons with Harden and Howard, the Rockets have lacked leadership on the court and are not seen by opponents as a team that works hard. Both want the perks and trappings of being the big dog, pulling the wagon, but neither will do the real work. Howard smiles and says everybody should keep positive thoughts. Harden shrugs his head and goes back to seeking his next 40-point game." So after 2 years of having Harden and Howard in an experiment to see if they could win a championship together, after the third season, the 15-16 season, they finished 41-41, mostly due to Howard being inaccessible due to injuries. So overall, the Dwight Howard, James Harden combo did not land the Houston Rockets a championship. On to the 2017-2018 seasons. The Rockets decided to bring in Chris Paul, CP3, to pair with Harden. And just like Howard, CP3 came in as a bona fide superstar. The Rockets looked at Paul as a great leader that could get them pointed in the right direction and finally land them an NBA Finals championship and get them to the promised land. During Paul's years with Houston, he would average 17.5 points, 8 assists, and 5 rebounds. In CP3's 2 seasons with the Houston Rockets, the first year they won 67 games, and the second year they won 53 games. The first year would be very disappointing because despite the 67 games won in the regular season, they would fall at the hands of the Golden State Warriors in the Western Conference Finals in Game 7. According to sources, Harden and CP3 had differences, not only in playing styles, but also in personality. The tension at one point got so bad that there was a point where Paul cherished the chance to play without Harden on the floor and once barked at Coach D'Antoni to keep Harden on the bench while he ran with the second unit. Let's listen to Jalen Rose, a former NBA player, talk about James Harden and how he actually does not want to be a part of the offense unless he is the one orchestrating it by having the ball.
So let me get this right. When you don't have the ball to initiate the offense, a guy that leads the league in scoring, a guy that shoots the ball more than anybody probably ever in the history of the NBA, a guy whose usage is as high as any player in the history of the NBA, as a guy who's taken more dribbles probably than anybody in the history of the NBA. You got the nerve to walk and act disinterested when somebody else initiate the offense?
He's even act disinterested. I don't know if he's acting disinterested because I can't see him on the screen. Like he's not even like past half court.
He's straight distorting the spacing. I need a guy when Chris Paul is initiating the action, when Eric Gordon is initiating the action, you gotta be a spacer. You gotta be a spot-up shooter. You gotta be a decoy. You gotta be somebody that we can actually make a play for and get you the ball.
Paul was also frustrated by what he perceived as Harden's tendency to ignore the unglamorous details that impacted winning, such as moving when he gave up the ball to help with spacing. The final straw was Paul demanding a trade and Harden telling the Rockets it's him or me after the Game 7 loss to the Golden State Warriors in the Western Conference Finals. So the Rockets did what they did best. They held on to Harden and they traded Chris Paul to the Oklahoma City Thunder of all teams to get Harden's best friend, childhood friend, Russell Westbrook. Now, despite Russ and James only playing in the shortened 1920 season, they went 44-28 as a team. Now, let's keep in mind, Russell Westbrook was a superstar in his own right. His credentials: a Rookie of the Year award, a 10-time All-Star, a 4-time First Team NBA, and a 9-time Defensive Team. He was also the triple-double threat, as evidenced by his 3 seasons straight of triple-doubles. During his 1 year with the Rockets, he averaged 27 points, 7 rebounds, and 8 assists. So fast forward to where we are today. Yes, Russell Westbrook is still a member of the Houston Rockets, but the Rockets head coach Mike D'Antoni and GM Daryl Morey have both jumped ship, leaving Houston with Harden, Westbrook, a bunch of role players, and no future draft considerations. Sources have said that Westbrook has made it known for quite some time that he would like to see significant changes to the Rockets' culture. Specifically, his desire for more team-wide accountability, discipline, and structure. During the season, Westbrook was the consistent presence who kept Harden accountable, and the two close friends had several verbal exchanges that sources described as tense but needed. Furthermore, during a January locker room meeting following a home loss to Portland, Westbrook, who was leading the meeting, went around the room indicating what was wrong and what each player needed to do to fix the losing streak, starting with himself. When it came to Harden, however, Harden wasn't receptive to criticism as other teammates were. In summary, if your coach, Mike D'Antoni, and your general manager, Daryl Morey, have both resigned, and Russell Westbrook still has reservations about overall team culture, this would be because of James Harden. Harden has been privileged to have such teammates as Dwight Howard, Chris Paul, and Russell Westbrook. Management has made every effort to put a great team around this guy, and he has continued to abuse the relationships by not wanting to change his game. Harden will continue to dribble the ball. He will continue to stay at the top of the key. He will continue to score 35 points. He will continue to pass the ball and stand in place. He has been the cancer and he is the problem of the Houston Rockets. Shout out to everybody rocking with me on YouTube, Instagram, the Anchor app. You can also find me on Spotify as well as Apple and Google Podcasts. It's your boy Pat. Peace. Catch you in the next one.